What's going on, everybody? So in this video, we are going to be covering some of the hottest NFT news that you missed. Now, before we get started, you might have noticed that I am in a different background right now. And that's because I am here in Los Angeles for NFT LA. So I'm going to be going to a couple events, the Valhalla event, Omniforce, and other ones as well. So if you're going to catch me at these events or you want to meet up sometime, hit me up on Twitter at @PatrickDay, and we can probably connect there. But let's go ahead and dive into the news. Cryptocurrencies have been pumping quite a bit over the past, let's say, like 7 days. And there's been news that the US government has printed more money. And I'm not an expert when it comes to the macro markets, but people say, and what I read on Twitter and stuff, the more the Fed prints money, the more people want to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and these kind of speculative assets. So we definitely have seen Ethereum pump to 1.8. When I saw this, I was actually kind of crazy, especially during a bull market. If you're catching the times when Ethereum is at its highest, that's definitely a big advantage, especially Bitcoin as well. And we'll talk about some projects that have minted recently that have, definitely used this in their favor in some ways. And that project is going to be degods, right? So if you didn't already know, degods basically took a few hundred of their degods NFTs, burned them, and then they inscribed them into Bitcoin, right? So people had an opportunity to bid on the degods Bitcoin, as you can see on their website. It's pretty simple, pretty clean. They did about $4.5 million in US dollar value after you add all the 0.333 Bitcoin, which is pretty interesting because originally the price was higher, but they reduced it because of how much Bitcoin pumped. And for degods, then there's this running theme that they use the 333 a lot. So it's really interesting that they decided to do 0.333 Bitcoin for the price. Obviously, degods is pretty much the hottest Solana project, so it kind of makes sense that they did this. And it's kind of like following suit of what Yuga Labs did when they did their whole art thing on Bitcoin as well. Now, let's go ahead and get into some corporate development when it comes to what's going on in NFTs, right? So Sony is introducing, or they filed some patents for cross-system NFT trading for PlayStation, right? And so they actually filed these official patents. Sony is exploring NFTs, right? And everybody knows that NFTs are probably going to be the future. And it may not look like what we think it will look like. Will everyone use Ethereum? Will everyone use Polygon? It's remaining to be seen. Even if it was all centralized, and the idea of NFTs, of digital ownership, that can still exist even if it's not on the chains that we know today. But the whole idea is like get an NFT in the game, whether it's earned or bought, and maybe it's a skin or something like that. And then you're going to be able to potentially use it in different games within the PlayStation ecosystem, right? So if you buy a skin in this game, let's say it's for armor, if you can use it in this game, why not use it for another game, right? So the value of those assets will increase because you can use it in more than one game. So that idea, I think, will most likely be the future. Whether it's going to be like NFTs or not, I think Sony will probably implement that just in general because it's better for the end consumer. And so we're going to definitely see a lot of platforms take advantage of this. And if you're a platform like Sony that kind of is the distributor of games, you're going to want to own these ecosystem and marketplaces, because if you can get a percentage of everything like OpenSea does, then that's going to be huge. Now, speaking of other corporate developments, Polygon is actually partnering up with Salesforce. That's pretty interesting because Salesforce is pretty much a CRM where people use it for, keeping track of who they're selling to, who they cold email to. And Salesforce also has a lot of other products besides the CRM. But what they're using Polygon for specifically is using NFTs as a loyalty program, right? So we've seen already what Starbucks is already using Polygon as its chain of choice for these NFT drops that they have been doing. And just so you know, Starbucks low-key has been making millions on these drops, selling these stamps with like no utility, but people want to collect it because it's Starbucks, right? And they're building utility into it, and they're probably going to make this whole game of like urging people to collect and rewarding them for collecting. And they have multi-billion-dollar companies, so I'm pretty sure they can create demand for anything they put out. Partnering with Salesforce makes sense because for brands that want to copy Starbucks and maybe they want to create these loyalty programs, but they need it to be done in a simple way, they already have a CRM, maybe they're already using Salesforce, and what if you can just like allow people to buy NFTs and everything's all connected in one place. The DGen world, we're not really thinking about CRMs. We're using like Excel sheets and Google Sheets and Notion for everything. This is a pretty new concept for the DGen world, but me coming from the Web2 background and tech sales, and I used to work at Oracle, so you have to integrate all these things together or else it's going to be impossible to keep track of who's what's the lifetime value of a customer. So definitely interesting to see like NFTs, getting one step closer to moving towards the mainstream, and that starts with the infrastructure, right? Now, moving into another big company, that's going to be Microsoft. And so Microsoft is reportedly going to be introducing crypto wallets into Microsoft Edge, which is their browser. So it's kind of like a Web3 integration. We already see like Brave browser, which is a popular browser a lot of people use, also implement their own wallet. And so Microsoft's probably looking at that and saying like, hey, are people actually using this? Hey, is Web3 going to be the future? So we might as well implement the wallet. I feel like Microsoft's really trying to come back hard with tech. Like, they is one of the largest owners in ChatGPT, right? So they're definitely going to go hard with search. I can see them spending some resources trying to get in the wallets because that may be the future. So the next thing we actually want to talk about is going to be Doodles. Doodles. Now, Doodles is quite interesting because over the past 7 days or so, the price kind of has been dropping quite a bit. Even when we're looking at the past 30 days, it dropped quite a lot from that 6 ETH top all the way to 3.7. So that's a significant drop. So what's actually going on? Now, a lot of people didn't really like that Doodles went on flow. It was kind of weird that they did that. They had this announcement where it was like, you want gold socks? Secure the full sock collection. Collect each sock and then you get a gold one. And everyone's kind of like, seriously? That's kind of like strange for a blue chip project to do these gold socks kind of thing and expect people to be excited about it. So it kind of like missed the mark. And then Poopy, which is one of the co-founders, basically said they're transitioning from going from an NFT project to a leading media franchise, just out of the blue, out of a sudden. And a lot of people really did not like this, right? The bio of Doodles is like a community-driven collectibles project featuring burnt toast, right? But the thing is, if it's community-driven, a lot of people are wondering like, how come the community didn't drive this change? It's not like anyone was asking them to do that. And in fact, a lot of the holders felt abandoned because if you're going to be a media company, what happened to all the original holders that has supported you for so long? And so that's kind of like why Doodles experiencing a lot of FUD, and that's definitely a learning lesson that I'm taking home with me. Another interesting thing is like for CloneX, right? And just for transparency, I do hold a CloneX, which I bought at a higher price than what it is now. But I just kind of want to share my opinions on it, right? So pretty much there's a mismatch of like the 3D renders of what people got. These are samples of 3D renders that Zaptio has posted. I believe this is on Instagram, right? This physical piece of clothing is not the same as the 3D clothes, right? It's just not really the same. So a lot of people are kind of fudding them and they're saying like, you basically sold us this 3D jacket and we're getting this one. This kind of looks very different. You sold us this 3D hat and this is the hat people are getting from the samples, right? It's just a mismatch. Like embroidery on these things are just way too thick, which doesn't really make sense, like why that exists. And it doesn't really have to be like that, right? Artifact's supposed to be under Nike. This was had the best manufacturing, economies of scales and all these things. And then it's kind of like, what's going on? Why is it like this? So a lot of people are kind of fighting CloneX in general just because of the execution of the close, and nothing is final yet. We haven't gotten our packages, so it's maybe too soon to say, but based on the samples, a lot of people don't like it. Also, I think execution plus the way they communicate with their holders is just not the most efficient. So over the past 30 days, it's dropped quite a lot from 5 ETH all the way down to 3.45. I still think there's potential here. I mean, like CloneX has a lot of interesting things when it comes to 3D. In my opinion, it is the best 3D out there. So there's always a room for a comeback, and there's a lot of things that can happen in a bull market, but just for now, I think just because the execution of close is not the best, I think that's why people are selling. And a lot of people are comparing this to like Azuki, for example, because Artifact made a lot of money selling the clothes, and then people are not happy with this. And then for Azuki, people are like, oh, everyone got the free twin jacket. Oh, that was free, right? And that costs so much money to do. Based on that narrative, that narrative alone is the difference between, making people hold and not, right? So with that said, that's pretty much everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next one. And if you're in LA, maybe I'll see you real soon.